If you're watching this right now, I need you to do one thing. Imagine the sound of footsteps inside your house, not your own, not your family's. Slow, deliberate, steady. And then, nothing. That silence, heavy and suffocating, is the same silence that fell over a small white farmhouse in Villisca, Iowa in 1912. A silence broken only by the swing of an axe. This is the story of one of the most disturbing, most violent, and most mysterious crimes in American history. 8 lives ended in a single night. A murderer who stayed to eat, to wash, to linger. And a house that has never stopped breathing since. The town of Villisca wasn't remarkable. It was a farming community, about 2,500 people, quiet streets, hard-working families. The kind of town where everyone knew everyone. And the Moores were known as one of the most respectable families in the area. Josiah Moore was a successful businessman. His wife Sarah was devoted to their 4 children, Herman, Catherine, Boyd, and Paul. They lived in a modest but well-kept home at 508 East 2nd Street. It was the kind of place where children played in the yard, neighbors waved from their porches, and doors were left unlocked at night. But on the evening of June 9, 1912, something entered that house that would change Villisca forever. The Moores spent that Sunday at church. It was Children's Day, and Sarah had coordinated the event. The children performed recitations, sang hymns, smiled under the warm summer sun. Afterward, the Moore kids asked if their friends, Lena and Ina Stillinger, could stay the night. Their parents agreed. 8 people in total would sleep under the roof that night. No one could have imagined they were tucking their children into bed for the last time. Around 10 p.m., the family returned home. Oil lamps were lit, doors locked, curtains drawn. The town outside grew quiet, the streets empty, the houses dark. By midnight, everyone in the Moore house was asleep. Sometime between midnight and 2 a.m., someone approached the house. We don't know how they got in. Maybe the back door was left unlocked. Maybe they carried a key. But what we do know is chilling. They walked through the house as though they already knew its layout. Through the parlor, past the staircase, and then, they picked up an axe. Josiah's own axe, left in the woodshed. The killer climbed the narrow staircase, their lantern covered with cloth to dim the light. At the top of the stairs, they turned toward the master bedroom. Josiah was the first. The axe came down with such force, it nearly split his head in 2. Sarah was next, struck multiple times until her face was unrecognizable. But the killer didn't stop. They moved into the children's room. One by one, the blows fell. Herman, Catherine, Boyd, Paul, each killed as they slept. Then, the killer turned toward the room where Lena and Ina Stillinger lay. Ina was killed instantly, but Lena may have woken up. Her body was found with signs of struggle, her arm raised as if she had tried to block the attack. Her nightgown was pulled up. Some investigators believed there was a sexual motive, but no conclusive evidence was ever found. By the time the killer was finished, every person in the house was dead. 8 bodies. 6 children, 2 adults, all wiped out in less than 2 hours. And here's where it gets darker. The killer didn't leave right away. They lingered. In the kitchen, police found a plate of food, half-eaten. Next to it, a bowl of bloody water, as though the killer had calmly washed their hands. Around the house, every mirror had been covered with cloth or clothing. Several windows were covered too, blocking the view from outside. In some rooms, the killer even draped fabric over the victims' faces, as if trying not to look at what they had done. Think about that. They stayed long enough to eat, to clean themselves, to alter the scene, and then, like a shadow, they vanished. The next morning, neighbors grew suspicious when the Moore family didn't appear outside. By 8 a.m., children weren't in the yard. By 10 a.m., Josiah hadn't shown up for work. A neighbor entered the house. And what she found sent her screaming into the street. By noon, word had spread across town. Hundreds gathered outside the Moore house. Inside, the scene was chaos. The coroner described it as one of the most brutal murders he had ever witnessed. Blood splattered the walls, ceilings, beds soaked through. The axe, its blade still stained, was found leaning against the wall. The town of Villisca would never be the same. Dozens of suspects were questioned. A traveling preacher named Reverend George Kelly, who had been at the church service the night before. A local senator's son, with a history of violence. A known serial killer who passed through the region. Even Josiah's former employer, who had a grudge against him. But each lead ended in dead ends. Trials were held, witnesses testified, Reverend Kelly was even arrested and confessed, before later retracting his statement. In the end, no one was ever convicted. The axe murderer of Villisca disappeared into history. But the story didn't end in 1912. The Moore house still stands today, and people say it hasn't forgotten. Visitors report doors opening and closing on their own, whispers in empty rooms, the sound of children crying softly in the night. Some have woken with scratches across their skin. Others say they hear the creak of footsteps on the staircase, followed by the swing of an axe. Ghost hunters have filmed strange orbs, recorded chilling EVPs, and even caught shadows moving through the halls. Some investigators refuse to stay the full night, claiming the atmosphere becomes unbearable around 2 a.m., the same hour the murders took place. The Villisca Axe murders remain one of the darkest unsolved crimes in American history. 8 innocent lives stolen, a killer who vanished without a trace, and a house that seems to hold on to every scream, every whisper, every drop of blood spilled within its walls. Over a century later, people still visit Villisca. Some come to pay their respects. Others come seeking the thrill of the paranormal. But all leave with the same feeling, that the house is watching. So now I ask you, would you dare spend a night in the Villisca Axe Murder House? Because those who do say they don't come back the same. And some say, you don't come back at all.